Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to something a little bit new. Today we're going to be having a look at Alcyone, The Last City. A game that was sent to me, and I'm very happy that they did because this fits my weird narrative niche incredibly well. From what I gather, it's very similar to something like Fallen London. It's a narrative adventure, it's about choices and the story. It's sci-fi though, which is something that also fits one of my many obsessions. But we're going to jump in straight away here with a new game. Welcome to the city. I'm just going to click through this tutorial. I've read it. And we're going to begin our existence. Chapter 1. The Last City. Can you recalibrate my senses? I'm getting bizarre readings. Every star past 30,000 light years has just vanished. Wait. Now it's 15,000. An excerpt from log file number 238135. Pre-event collapse. Now, for people who want to have someone reading things to them, this game does have a text-to-speech option. If you like that kind of thing. It also has autoplay. Obviously, because I'm going to be doing the reading, I won't have either of those things, but they are available if you want them. Click or tap the hub. I can do that. Waking up. Your senses come to you in fragments. Nearby is the sound of a heart monitor. Why do you know that word? Chirping in regular intervals at the same rhythm as the organ inside your ribcage. Underneath your fingertips is the touch of something cold, sterile and plastic. Your skin prickles to goose flesh as you notice how chilly the air is. On top of everything else, the scent of medicine is nigh suffocating as you inhale the ozone surrounding your form. Oddly, sight is the one sensation you're still lacking. Everything is black, despite the certainty that your muscles are trying to open and close your eyelids. As if summoned by that effort, a point of light appears at the horizon of your vision. It expands like a big bang of sentience, bathing you in aseptic energy. The sparkles condense, spin, and reform into a grid of icons. An interface of blue translucence hovers, waiting in front of your spatial sense of self. Good morning, patient. Your vitals inform me that you've regained consciousness. Welcome. The speaker's neutral voice resonates from somewhere inside your head, but you can't tell if their intonation is bored or merely polite. After a routine stasis period to balance city population levels, you've been cloned by the rebirthing facility and are awaiting discharge back to the living. Now this is something that I appreciate very much about this game. If something has this blue text, you can click it and it'll open up a lore entry. I love it when games do this because it lets you know what people are talking about if you don't already know. The city, known as Outpost Alcyone in pre-event times, the city, as it's now called, is the last known refuge of human civilization within the universe. A population of approximately 8 million people inhabit the 700-kilometer hexagonal area of the city. Its physical footprint is protected on all sides by the wall and its reality field. The city is divided into 7 regions: the 6 denizen sextants and the citizen district at the centre, surrounding the citadel. Or we can have a look at the rebirthing facility. Given its extreme isolation, protecting the diversity and health of the city population is critical. As such, a genetic baseline was established near the founding of the city and has been strictly maintained in the centuries since. When most residents die, they are cloned and then have their old memories restored to their new bodies. The rebirthing facility serves as both a hospital and rehabilitation facility, until the clones rebirths in official parlance, are ready for their new lives. With small exception, every city resident is promised 3 centuries of life, 4 centuries for citizens, and however many rebirths that takes. The facility is operated by the Cedar Guild and considered a part of House Corthan. There's a lot of houses and things in this game. A lot of politics and factions. All the sorts of things that I find incredibly fascinating. I'm registering elevated stress levels. These will abate as your memories are downloaded and linked to your new neural pathways during this conversation. I will now begin a brief mental diagnostics to confirm that what you think your identity is actually aligns with our established records. The strange words come fast and with little context, but you begin to grasp their meaning. It's simple. You weren't alive before, and now you are. But who are you? You received an objective. In the future, these can be reviewed via the objective screen. We also got a little sneak peek at the different skills, I guess, and maladies, and like negatives, positives and negatives that are going to affect our choices as we go through the game. Let's keep listening. Slow and steady. Being born is an involved process. Simple questions. Let's begin with easy details. Do you remember what your gender is? The question seems straightforward enough. You think on it for a moment. This will begin our character creation. Make your choices carefully. If you change your mind, you'll have to restart. Oh, that's fine. So we can either have none for those without a gender. The city's charter provides a 4th legally recognized standard of representation. Androgyny. The city's 2nd legal reformation officially ratified a 3rd legal gender to recognize and protect those who shift between the traditional binary. Woman. The city's charter enshrines no discrimination based upon individual identity. Gender is a personal affair. Or man. One of 4 legally recognized genders in the city. I'll go with man because it is me. My personal identity. Very good. We'll move on. You can almost feel the voice nodding. When an icon appears beside a narrative bubble, it means a prior choice or attribute has revealed additional text. This can unlock new story content or information as you progress. Smaller icons appearing beside a choice denote what attribute has unlocked the option, or must be unlocked in order for you to choose it. Pay attention to both while you play, as your choices will open different options, routes and strategies throughout the narrative. My gender attribute has now been set to man. On to the next question. My background. Do you remember who you were before your death? The voice asks the question patiently, giving you plenty of time to respond. You ask yourself, if you do. This will set your overall difficulty. The effect is subtle, as your choices will determine how challenging your story really is, but here you can pick a head start or a hindrance. So we can be a denizen, one of the city's lowest tier of residents, if you don't count the casteless. Who are the casteless? The very lowest tier of population in the city. The casteless are barely treated as people. They have no legal rights or protections and are shunned and mistreated if acknowledged at all. Most rely on the support of Citadel Hope, the city's quasi-official religious organization, to provide food, clothing and housing for those who need it. Okay. No one of importance, but sometimes that is the safest person to be. We can become a citizen, whether a child of a minor house or a patriarch in a major one. Citizens are nigh untouchable, except to each other. Their machinations impact the entire city. Does it list the houses? It can tell us about the houses. The houses are the pinnacle of city power. Unlike families of pre-event dynasties, however, not all members of a house are necessarily blood relatives. The best known and most influential are the 6 ruling houses, who have the greatest authority in the city, but there are many smaller ones beneath them. Despite their sway, the 6 are not immune to the political flux of the city, and at times smaller houses have supplanted stronger ones to move up the hierarchy. Or we can be a free person. Before your death? That's not right. You never died. You came from a random arrangement of reappropriated DNA, created solely to improve the city's genetic diversity. As a fully blank slate, you will have no backstory and some choices will be locked during character creation. This is the slightly harder option. So we have normal, easy, and hard. I want to be a citizen, so I'm going to be a citizen. Social status. Absolutely. The costs involved in your rebirth have already been paid in full. The city appreciates your support, of course. Keep on listening. Your end, at least the last one. Now tell me how you died. Should this be a sensitive subject? This will add a challenge to your backstory. You didn't die? I guess we would have had that if we picked the free person, but we did not. An accident? It happens. A stumble, or looking in the wrong direction while crossing a golem rail track? Or the light switch wiring is faulty? No one is at fault, typically. A golem? Golems are artificial constructs, used for everything from transportation to construction, manual labour and medical work. Depending on their specialization, they have various degrees of sentience, and some models have near-human levels of intelligence. The golem population, taken collectively, far outnumbers the humans who live in the city, and their production is fiercely protected by the Shapers Guild. As a golem can be anything from a vehicle to a nursing assistant, attempts to classify and categorize them as a group is a largely futile endeavor. A punishment? Did you commit a crime against a citizen? I tend to frown at that. No matter, the city took your last life, but rebirth is technically a blank slate. This is also locked because we have to be either a free person or a denizen. I could have been murdered, robbery, or something more calculated. Are you the victim of circumstance or meticulous planning? You don't recall, but you suspect the culprit will resurface. This will add an aspect to your long-term story. An accident is the easier option, but let's pick murder. I don't think I'll be playing long enough for it to really play out, but we'll see. How unpleasant. The voice tuts. These things happen, even despite the efforts of the peacekeepers to prevent crime. I'm sure you received justice in your last life, of course. Who are the peacekeepers? While crime in the city is rare, particularly of a violent sort, the law enforcement service is still necessary. Peacekeepers report to the Senate and carry out the laws of the city by ensuring residents respect and follow them, and bringing justice to those who don't. Most peacekeepers are denizens, as the responsibility appeals to those who want authority over the rest of their caste. Citizens have to respect peacekeepers to a certain degree, but their presence in the citizen district is relatively uncommon. Peacekeepers also stand in as the city's only sense of an army. They deal with uprisings, riots, or incredibly rare breaches in the reality field. Keep on listening. Affairs of the soul. Was there someone important in your last life? Various ways to interpret that question. This will give you a connection, be that a relationship, romantic or not. You might potentially run into this person again in your new life, so we can have no opportunity just yet. As a rebirth in more ways than usual, you haven't yet had the opportunity to figure out what sort of person you're drawn to, if any. It may change in time. We need to be a free person for that, I think. Yep. So we have an artisan of the Builders Guild. You had a way of coaxing golems into operating outside of the parameters the Shapers intended for them, and could create structures that were near artwork. My heart has room for many. Not one, no, but the two you spent time with were very dear to you. They'd met each other while working at the Prime's office, and then met you. An individual of learning? They were well respected at the university and laboured with empathy and grace to teach and train those students who crossed their path each semester. Or not in the way implied. Many important people made their impact upon your past life, of course, but you wouldn't be able to pick one over the others. Or a self-styled poet in a place with no need for art. He was soft-spoken, genuine, and more interested in human interaction than city politics. He once wrote you a birthday poem. Or was it for an anniversary? Let's go with the artisan of the Builders Guild. Noted. I'll mark your reply on your file. On to the next question. Wrapping up. We're nearly at the end. All that's left is for you to figure out what you'd like to make of your next life. This will set your drive, which may potentially be satisfied during a playthrough. Fame, a timeless pursuit. Be known, be admired, be loved. Or at least, be talked about. Revenge, find the person who was responsible for ending your last life and reward them in kind. Discovery, leave the city. It's impossible, of course, and countless have tried before. Maybe you'll succeed. Wealth, enjoy the finest foods, surround yourself with the finest things, hire others to destroy your enemies. You needn't dirty your own hands. Go with revenge, just because we unlocked this by setting our challenge to murder. Blood. I'll make a note. The voice gives no indication of whether or not it approves of this objective. Keep listening. Graduation. Excellent. Let us just recap what you've said. You've associated with the following attributes to your character. Yep, that's me. Does this all sound right to you? If so, we'll move on with the discharge process. Everything is fine. Let's lock in our choices. Alive at last. There's a palpable clap of sound in your ears, and the interface disappears, replaced by total darkness. You can open your eyes. The voice you hear now is different to the one that has been with you earlier. You also realise that the sound is closer and physical, and not within your mind. You open one eyelid, wincing as bright, sterile light assaults your sense of vision. And in a moment, you're brave enough to open both. You lie on a cold, firm bed in the middle of a hospital room. Your borrowed memories tell you that this is the recovery area for newly awoken rebirths. Standing beside you, blank expression on its smooth, shale grey face, is one of the humanoid golems crafted for service roles. This construct is made of biometal, an invention of House Sado, and something the Shapers have kept a monopoly over ever since the city's founding. What's biometal? A proprietary substance created and controlled by the Shapers Guild. It's mostly used to build golems, but the Guild has utilised it in other ways too. A form of living nanotechnology, biometal is significantly stronger than steel, but capable of computational processes and artificial sentience. The method of making biometal is ferociously guarded by the Shapers Guild, and a few outside of its upper echelon know how to do so. We learn about House Sado? One of the 6 ruling houses, House Sado owns the Shapers Guild, and with it biometal and golems, things vital to the continued existence of the city itself. They fiercely guard the production of both, leasing out golems, or rarely biometal, to clients according to their needs. The Builders Guild is one of their largest customers, as they employ an army of golems for construction purposes across the entire city. While not every member of Saudar is involved with the Shapers Guild, it is nevertheless the house's claim to fame and main source of their wealth. House Saudar is the most powerful of the six. You've always found the servants somewhat unsettling to look at. Wait, did you? Your mind believes so, but you aren't sure why. Cables trail from jack points on its back to a bank of solemn-looking machines at the far wall of the room. They beep and blip with internal logic, processing the artificial intelligence that allows this golem to be more personable and self-aware than most. Its face creases into an uncomfortable semblance of a smile. Mind your balance when you stand. Your new muscles haven't gotten a lot of proper use yet. Our next life is about to start. Choices. The last thing to organise is your temporary post on discharge. New rebirths must complete a short internship to refamiliarise their cloned body with motor skills, social interactions, and city behavioural expectations. It won't take up much of your time, but it's required for everyone. The golem pauses for a moment. Even citizens, I'm afraid. Decide your internship. Okay, this will give us our starting gear and stats. Its impact is minor. It will guide your playthrough's initial focus. Like an intern with the very same Builders Guild we keep reading about, golems alone cannot build and maintain the city. Humans handle work requiring delicate or careful manipulation. Builder Guild organises that, and more. This will be our body trait. A marathon. House Cedillo is hosting an athletic competition in a few days. They're the smallest of the six ruling houses, and this event is dismissed by most citizens as a public relations effort. Everyone likes a free party, though. We'll train our vigour stat. We can volunteer at the university library. The university maintains the last collection of physical books in the known universe. They can always use extra help with sorting and cataloguing. Mind trait. Work on speech writing at the Prime's office. The six ruling houses make the real decisions in the city, of course, but pretenses are still important to maintain. I'm guessing the Prime is like the king? The office of the Prime is technically the head of the city's government. In practice, actual power lies with the citizens, and the six ruling houses in particular. Only citizens have voting authority, and the Prime is replaced on a fixed 8-year term. Okay, that makes sense. I'm drawn towards speech writing, but let's go with the university library. I think that's kind of interesting. Work. The golem leads you out and escorts you through a brief discharge procedure. You encounter no other humans, whether doctors, nurses, or rebirths like you, before you're led out of the hospital and into the first hour of your new life. The rebirthing facility resides in the middle of Epsilon, not tremendously far from the periphery wall dividing the citizen district from the denizen sextants. Down the golem tram line to Epsilon Gate pops up an unbidden factoid in your head. Prompts from your newly installed memories will be with you for some time to come. Far in the distance, you can see the citadel's towering spire rising over the rest of the cityscape. And invisible further beyond that skyline is blackness. Utter blackness. Nothing exists past the city's outer boundary and the protective barrier projected from the citadel's highest point. In the collapse, the nihility consumed everything except for this last vestige of life. City residents are long familiar with the finality of their situation. Let's have a look at the nihility. The nihility is an all-consuming phenomenon, triggered into existence by the event. It constantly presses against the city's protective reality field. While the nihility mostly disrupts and destroys matter on a sub-quantum level, in many cases it also twists, remakes, and distorts it into new, perverse forms. For example, the unknown structure colloquially known as the Distant Queen and Thor's army orbit the city on regular basis like captured satellites. The nihility is not believed to be sentient, but were it not for the reality field, even the city would have been destroyed during the event collapse. At the moment, the false sky is a shade of neutral blue, and resembles what the real thing might have looked like before the reality field went up. Let's see what the reality field is. The reality field is a city-wide shield projected from the Citadel. That field is beamed to a focal point approximately 1 kilometer above ground level and then spreads to encompass the rest of the city's hexagonal footprint. The field protects the city from the deathly anti-material effect of the nihility outside. Like the Citadel, the technology powering the field is long lost. Smaller devices operate in the walls that divide each sextant, allowing a localized field to be projected in a city section in the event of a breach. In the city's early days, staring at the blackness of the nihility was so traumatic that the Shapers engineered an atmospheric facade to fool residents. Even so, cracks in the fiction are visible if one pays enough attention. Strange, unnatural structures appear in space beyond the city's barrier. Some of the largest objects have names, like little moons. The Distant Queen is the most infamous. The residents lost the habit of inspecting the sky long ago. In any event, it's time to move on. You, fortunately, needn't walk far to reach the location of your assigned job. In a place where most opt to have their education downloaded at rebirth instead of actually studying, a university might seem incredulous. Still, it mostly exists to preserve the last public collection of physical books in existence. Luckily for you, it's also not far from the rebirthing facility. You set off at a brisk walk, following the directions provided to you. We've unlocked the City University. Let's get started. There it is. A place of learning. The architecture of the university is intended to be intimidating. If there's only one, the building's designers reasoned it should take itself seriously. Ivory-coloured stone stairs stretch upward into an entrance shouldered on both sides by thick columns. Its windowless facade makes it look like a cold mountain. You hurry up the stairs quickly. Inside, the sterile illumination does little to dispel the chilly impression you got from the street. You see rows of tables, each covered with papers and books. These stretch from one end of the open room to the other, looking haphazard and cluttered with a hint of underlying structure to the chaos. As the sole public repository for the pre-event books, the university holds onto relics of not only city history, but that of time before the collapse as well. You look around for a scholar wearing a silver badge, denoting their rank as chief librarian. Finally, spotting them in the distance, you walk over. Upon introducing yourself, the person gives scant indication that your presence was noted, instead jutting their chin out towards the tables around all of you. There's plenty to do here. I can only hope you'll be more useful than most of the rebirths I have to deal with. Oh, we're about to begin our first encounter. Completing them will give you knowledge. This is the city's true currency, and having the right bits of it will open new pathways, opportunities, and secrets. The choices you'll confront in most encounters have no easy solution, but for this first one, you'll face reduced and non-fatal risks. Do not grow complacent. Let's follow the scholar. Mind path, studious engagements. Mountainous paperwork. Oh, fantastic. The chief librarian regards you as more of an annoyance than a human being, and makes it clear that your presence is something to be weathered and overcome. There's plenty of work to accomplish before your release can be authorized, however. Different choices will open up below as you progress through the encounter. Well, right now we only have one. The university's primary function is education. The current semester's enrollment information needs to be digitized and added to its main database. Paper cuts. Being asked to digitize enrollment records is as exciting as it sounds. The database contains student names, addresses, castes, and relevant financial accommodations. Not the sort of thing that makes for interesting reading. As you copy information from the folders scattered around you, the task becomes rhythmic and meditative. Create a record, type, close the folder, repeat. Each folder is stamped with codes linking categories to markers in the university database, and part of your job includes matching them up, not taxing. All the same, the chief librarian seems less than welcoming, though it's likely worth doing what you're told, and well, to make a good impression. You progress through the stack, not paying much attention to the documents themselves, until you come across a folder affixed with a code you haven't seen yet. Even more puzzling, the associated code isn't listed on the master sheet that the chief librarian gave you when you first started. You look up from your station and peer around for where the chief librarian is at. Coughing politely to gain their attention, you explain what you found. A raised eyebrow is the first proper response you've seen from them so far, and they take the folder away from you. Don't worry about it, this is from an old system, and I'll convert it myself. Throwing the document onto their desk, they wave you away dismissively. You return to your station and your own work. A few minutes later, you watch the chief librarian engage in a terse chat with someone else. The pair leave. You can't help notice the folder's still here. I can either fish out the document. The chief librarian didn't explicitly forbid you from touching the folder. See what its contents are. They could be incredulous or they could be useful. This action may have consequences, or we can ignore it. The chief librarian obviously doesn't want you to poke around here, and it's best to heed their desires. Or we could have a look. Brazen. Trying to be as discreet as possible, you walk over to where the folder had been left. It's still on top of the document pile and beckoning for your attention. You grab it and begin reading. At first, the document doesn't seem unusual. It's a normal student dossier, like all the others you've been copying. Certain details begin to stick out. For one, the name on the file is Carlita Lovini. Your recently downloaded memories tells you that she's the daughter of House Lovini's matriarch. What do they do? One of the 6 ruling houses. House Lovini runs the Goldsmith Guild, the bankers and money handlers of the city. Despite their wealth, financial prowess, and considerable resources, they aren't well liked among the 6, nor do they have the greatest city's reputation. That would be because they're bankers. Nobody likes bankers. Given that she personally runs the Goldsmith Guild and is partially into her second rebirth, it doesn't make sense for her to be enrolled as a student. As you continue snooping, other details seem out of place. Her house affiliation isn't listed on the financial form, and the benefits writer claims she's taking advantage of student housing at the university complex. You reasonably find that difficult to believe. But all the same, you peel away the sticker with her home address and hide it in your pocket. Before you can do anything else, the folder is ripped from your hand. I thought I asked you to return to work. The chief librarian's tone is terse and clipped. You apologize and give a polite bow before returning to your station. Still, you know something useful, and have an address to go along with that knowledge. Ooh, okay, interesting. We're making progress, and I've picked up a blight. I am 0.5 clumsy, just like real life. Keep working. Back to the tasks before you get into further trouble. Back to the hub again. So here, I have two options. I can figure out what to do with the address. You've procured something that doesn't belong to you. But for the moment, possessing it could put you in jeopardy. Or I could take notes for a research project. The university employs scholars and scientists who run their own project alongside the rest of their lecture schedule. One of them needs a research assistant. We're going to find out what to do with that address. A development. You return to your station and fold the sticker with Cartier's supposed address on it in half, and then slide that under a pile of documents on your desk. Giving the room a surreptitious glance to see if your sneaky behaviour was noticed, it appears that you're in the clear. The chief librarian comes along soon after and calls you to help with moving several boxes of documents into a storage closet. You trudge off as requested. When you return to your desk, you notice a stranger frantically rummaging through your files. They flinch, realizing you've caught them doing something sneaky. Seconds later, they discover the hidden sticker. They snatch the paper with a triumphant grunt and race for the door, drawing tons of attention in the process. As other scholars and workers murmur to themselves in confusion, you notice a specific sigil on the bag they shoved the sticker into. House Lavini. How perplexing. That's why we should have kept it on us. Uh-oh. I picked up a pedal. Your snooping was noticed. Well, let's return to the chief librarian. There's nothing else to be done. Back to the hub. All that's left now is to take notes for the research project. Experimental. In addition to the university's regular lecture and educational schedule, a number of scholars and scientists maintain research stations in the facility. Their projects cover everything from improved farming, hydroponics, and recycling technology to more esoteric pursuits studying the nature of nihility itself. Well, as best as it can be studied from within the fishbowl of the city's reality field. The chief librarian informs you that you're to report to one of the scientists working in the latter discipline. Apparently, she needs someone to transcribe variables and results while she carries out an experiment, and you've been assigned to her for the time being. You can't remember if you have an aptitude for the sort of work she's doing, but at the moment your rebirth-addled mind can't make much sense of the study. It also doesn't help. The scientist is making no effort to explain what she's doing, and instead just mutters to herself. You hear remarks about the structural integrity of the field's atomic boundary, radiation decay, exotic particles, and other nonsensical multi-syllabic words. All that stands out is her repeated insistence that calculations don't support the possibility of the reality field lasting for the centuries it already has. She calls out numbers, instructing you to scribble them down on a pad of paper near her desk. Every few moments she mumbles a new value, and you copy it. In one long lull between tests, your attention wanders to the pile of documents on her desk and a letter between the scientist and the Prime's office. It piques your interest. We can read it? You must be very important to have the ear of the Prime. There's the possibility you'll learn something useful. Or this could be a campaign promotion. Or we can ignore it. Reading someone else's mail? How inappropriate. In for a penny. Pushy. You slide away the documents, obstructing the letter, while the scientist is distracted and talking to herself. It begins fairly perfunctorily. Dear Dr. Key, this letter serves to acknowledge receipt of your most recent study regarding the reality field's integrity. We are reviewing your analysis and will encourage publication in due time, but must reiterate our request that you not disseminate this paper prematurely. Until it's been appropriately vetted by the broader scientific community, your articles are alarmist at best and destabilizing at worst. If your behavior persists, we will have to address the matter in accordance with our previous correspondence. You puzzle over the letter for a moment until the scientist comes over and yanks it off the table. He sputters with vehemence and clutches it tightly. Myopic politicians more worried about being liked than what will happen if the reality field collapses on top of our heads. They don't frighten me. Silence hangs between you both for a moment. Actually, you might be able to help. When you're discharged, track down an associate of mine, Dr. Bula Scraggs. He's working with Cawthon on their lab meet. She scans her wristlet over the letter you discovered, digitizing it in the process, and then gestures impatiently at you. Give me your tablet. Amused, you do as ordered and hand over your personal device. She links her wrist computer up to it and then types out something furiously over the next minute. Then she returns your gadget back to you. Looking at it, you see that you've emailed yourself an encrypted document that's locked by a passcode you don't possess. Dr. Key nods. Pass that on to her once you two meet. You aren't asked if you're willing to perform the task or not, and as far as Dr. Key is concerned, the matter seems sorted. He returns to her experiment. Close the door on your way out. Okay, we've learned that Dr. Key has concerns regarding the reality field. And we've become wary. 0.8, uh-oh. Keep working. Our final task. Finish putting books back on the shelves. The university holds the last collection of physical books in the known universe, and you're tasked with putting the borrowed ones back in their correct spots. 50. The university is equally as vast as any library that existed before the event. It holds the last surviving collection of books known to humankind, and those books are available to almost anyone who wants to check them out. Maintaining such a collection requires lots of manual collation, and the other librarians seem fine leaving that labour to you. Thus, you find yourself pushing a cart stacked to the brim with books on everything from poetry to architecture, and looking for their spots on the shelves. Like the other things you've been asked to do today, this assignment is mindless and simple, even if your newly awakened muscles protest the physical effort. It's enough of a workout, even with the assistance of the wheeled cart, that you suspect your body will be feeling it worse later. You find a book spot, take it to the right space, and mark it off your master list. Soon you're nearing the end of the pile, and the last of the publications. Picking up one of the final books, you notice an unfolded letter beneath it. Your eyes scan the first few sentences before you realize what you're doing. You recognize the name at the top of the page as Dr. Key, the scientist who had you taking notes for her experiment earlier. The letter appears to have something to do with her work, but before you can decide whether to continue reading, a stranger taps you on the shoulder. Caught off guard, you turn to the newcomer. I actually stashed that letter myself. I was going to collect it later. Your eyes drift to the bag worn over their shoulder, and you recognize Lavini's sigil on it. This is the person who snatched Car-Eaters Lavini's address from you. Ah, I hadn't realized that we've apparently already met. Oh, interesting. That document is very important to my mistress. It would be best for both of us if you hand it over without creating a scene. Lavini is a formidable house. You realize she's keeping her voice low, as if trying to avoid drawing undue attention to the pair of you. It's clear she's giving you a choice here. We can either refuse. Who is she to make threats? The document doesn't belong to her. Or we can let her take it. If she's involved with the house, it's safer for you to stay far away from the matter. Let her get what she came for and get back to work. Let's refuse. An altercation. Whether out of a sense of decency or simply the desire to keep the letter and its information for your own use, you make it clear that you're not giving it up. She narrows her eyes and moves for the trolley anyway. Before the situation escalates, another librarian turns into your aisle and looks at you both curiously. What's going on? The spy seizes the moment and bolts for the letter. In one swift motion, she snatches it and squares her shoulders towards you. The new librarian cries out in alarm as the spy barrels into both of you. The next few moments are a snapshot of tangled limbs and loud swearing. She extricates herself and scrambles for the exit. The chaos has drawn the attention of everyone, and it's not long before she's apprehended and questioned. As soon as the spy is recognized as a citizen, she's released. Their stature is a protected class above most punishment, but Dr. Key's letter is confiscated. It doesn't escape your notice, though, when the document is refolded and placed in a drawer in the chief librarian's desk. Nor do you fail to see the spy making a point of mouthing a threat at you as she leaves the university. So a House Lavini spy wanted Dr. Key's letter. Interesting. Oh no, I now have a malady! I don't think I'm playing this right, guys. Let's return to the chief librarian. You're finished. It's time to be discharged. Oh. I can retrieve the letter. You might have lost possession of Dr. Key's letter for now, but you know how to recover the document again. Excuse me. Menacing? It's easy to reacquire Dr. Key's letter once you know where it's stashed. After all, the university is neither business nor bank. There are few guards. The opportunity comes in the form of a surreptitious distraction. One of the other intern rebirths managed to knock over a shelf full of books. Chaos of the situation affords you a chance to get to the chief librarian's desk, grab the letter and hide it in your pocket before you can be noticed. Or you thought you weren't noticed. You return to your own station after a break to see a handwritten note sticking out of a pile of papers. I know you took what I came here for, and I'll get it back. I don't know how seriously you should take the warning, but given your run-in with House Lavini's spy already, it stands to reason that the note came from her. Best be on your guard going forwards. Oh, this is fine. This is fine. Yep. Go back to the hub. And finished at last. Your internship is completed. Time to see the chief librarian so you can be discharged. Time to go. The chief librarian pays you little attention when you turn up to be discharged. You're left waiting for several minutes before they acknowledge your presence. The day has been long, and you've received some interesting insight into the workings of the university and the machinations of House Lavini. After a while, the chief librarian passes you a certificate with their signature on. This certifies your discharge. You can also speak with the receptionist on the way out to obtain some equipment as part of the internship program. We've completed the encounter. You've learned that Cartier Lavini is a university student. Dr. Key has concerns of the reality field. Someone from House Lavinity recovered the address, and you recovered the letter. And we got a few negatives, just a couple. We've received a piece of equipment. Mind engram. Mind wristlet, insight tablet, and a thought sequence. Your new gear will be equipped. Here it is. We can click it and I assume we'll get new gear, and it increases our stats and things. Soundtracks. I like it. Secret and perils. Let's just pretend there's no perils though. And we can return to the rebirthing facility. New beginnings. Again. Ah, here you are. Finishing the day was your first step towards getting out on your own, making your mark on the city and working to achieve your goals, whatever they may be. You don't feel quite invigorated. A full day of work has left you tired and drained, but it's at least a productive sort of tired. Either way, progress. Your internship was informative, giving you inklings into the politics of the city and between houses. In time, you'll learn what impact your choices have had. You start making your way back to the rebirthing facility to turn in your certificate, retracing steps you took that morning. Your focus roams to the sky above. The false day is ending, as blue gives way to dusky vermilion. Lights begin flickering to life across the skyline as night falls. You quicken your pace, reaching the entrance to the rebirthing facility in mere minutes. While engineers put some variance into the algorithms that control the city's atmosphere, sunset and sunrise are fairly consistent experiences. That's likely why you noticed, if only on a subconscious level, that something unusual was happening this time. Annihility is generally, if erroneously, thought of as a void, but while life doesn't exist there as humans understand it, annihility isn't a vacuum. Structures orbit the city at regular, observable rates. The origin of those structures is unknown, as for obvious reasons there's no way to research them. Ground-based telescopes are affected by the Citadel's reality field in the same way that the nihility is kept out. Observation beyond is limited. Nevertheless, there are things out there, and right now you have an uneasy sense that one of them, the largest, the distant queen, is staring at you. Something very bad is occurring, and we can begin the encounter trapped. Ghastly. The satellite is best described as a human head, if that head had been melded with an asteroid and expanded to a similar size as the latter. Enormous craters take the place of empty eye sockets, and an antagonized mouth, twisted in rage, is too obvious to be mere human personification. The celestial object orbits the city around this time daily, usually taking an hour to cross from horizon to horizon. City residents often avoid looking up during that hour, but you've noticed something in the distance that can't be overlooked. A line of black is bleeding in the sky a short distance ahead of you, spreading across the skin of the reality field, as if it were cracking apart. That couldn't be what's happening, could it? There hasn't been a field breach in ages, but a sudden blackout of external illumination confirms your fears. Sirens wail with a piercing screech, and an alert blares from speaker systems embedded throughout the block. Warning! A breach has been detected and containment protocols have been activated. Stay indoors and remain calm. Panic explodes around you. You watch residents scattering like vermin as they seek refuge from the atomic annihilation seeping into the city. Epsilon Gate isn't far, but you can see the local field generators firing up as the sextant is sealed from the rest of the city. It's a precaution in case the breach doesn't reseal or exposure is extensive enough to write off the zone entirely. You need to get somewhere safe and quickly. The breach is widening and wisps of nihility are starting to leak into the reality of the city. So we can try to get inside the rebirthing facility. Every moment outside is another moment you risk exposure to the nihility. The facility is critical to the city and likely has its own temporary field generator. Our Vigor attribute gives us a 5% chance of success. Oh my god. Try somewhere else. Given how important the facility is to the city, it's likely sealed as soon as the alarms went off. Many other buildings have local field generators. Find one. Body, 20% chance. Appeal to the kindness of strangers. Perhaps someone has taken notice of your predicament and can help you out. Let's go with a 40% chance of success. Appeal to the kindness of strangers. Unnoticed, huh? You call out an alarm, hoping your voice will be noticed above the general panicked cacophony. Unfortunately, there's too much noise and commotion around you. You look around for somewhere to hide. Time is running out, and tendrils of black nothingness are creeping away from the gash high above you. Static and sparks crackle as the nihility interacts with reality, atoms annihilating one another in slow erosion of natural physics. However, the street is deserted by now, and you're on your own. Oh no, I've been exposed to the nihility. Is that a... It's not listed here. Interesting. Hi, my wariness has gone up. Try something else. A saviour. What are you doing standing out here? You spin around to the sound of a voice and see a middle-aged woman waving frantically from the doorway of a shop. Get in quickly! The breach is widening! You need no more encouragement and make a dash for the doorway. Unfortunately, your foot lands on a loose rock, or some sort of rubble, and you twist your ankle. You hobble the rest of the way and wince with each step. Inside, you can't help but notice the woman's apparent age. Most residents opt to rebirth earlier so they can maintain a youthful appearance. Given what's happening at the moment, you don't know why your brain is fixated on this detail, but it sticks out at you. All the same, you're safe, for now. The peacekeepers should be along any moment to attend to the breach. And our malady's increasing. And I think I'm going to end this here. I know I've left it on a bit of a cliffhanger, but I thoroughly encourage you to check this game out for yourself. You know if you like this kind of game. And I feel there's a lot of people who watch my videos will like this kind of game, and it being sci-fi is a whole different sort of feel. Normal games that are set like this way. So I am going to finish this here. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I'll put a link down below for the Steam page. As I said earlier, I was kindly given this by the developer to try out, and I do really appreciate it. And yeah, please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. Thank you again to the members of the channel and the coffee supporters. It really does mean the world to me. And as always, I'll see you next time.